But before that, I am going to walk you through the instrumental. I'm going to play part of the instrumental now. So let's mute out these vocals and we'll just play this part of the instrumental from the intro kind of into the verse. So you can get a sense of how it's sounding. This is fully mixed. And then we'll take a look at what I did. So that makes up the majority of the instrumental, but there is some other parts down here, some other instrumentation comes in, as you can see. So I'll just play from around here. Yeah, so obviously the main thing here is the 808, the bass. It's coming through really strong. It's a main driver of the instrumental and the song. So that right here is the most important part in a way in the beat, but also there's some really nice instrumentation going on here, some pianos, some saxes. And it was about kind of building them in with plenty of width and space to leave space for the vocal. The other thing you probably notice is there's various things in the beat that kind of provide like a big impact. So every 4 or 8 or 16 bars, various parts throughout the song, there's kind of things that really smash you in the face, you know. There's various effects shots and also parts of the instrumentation as well, which provide a big kind of impact. So those parts are really nice as well. And I kind of did things in the vocal as well to kind of go with that and to match up with that, which you'll see later on when we get to the vocal. So let's start with the drums. And I'm not going to go through in detail like exactly what I did, because as you'll see, there's not a whole lot on these, it's just little touches. Yeah, so on the kick here, I'm adding a little bit of saturation here with the Sheps Omni channel and a little bit of punch here in the kind of 60 hertz range, reducing a little bit of mud as well on the kick. This rim shot here, I needed to brighten it up a little bit. So I used the Sheps Omni channel once again and the Ozone Exciter, as you'll see, just adding some kind of grit and some punch to that mid-range there. So just adding more presence and more sharpness to that. The shaker. So I use the Saturn here by FabFilter to kind of add some grit and more of a kind of lo-fi kind of sound to this shaker. I didn't like how the high end was catching my ear when it was mixed in with the vocals, so I used this here. And this is a good trick. Instead of EQing, sometimes I use saturation like this to kind of take away the edges or the sharpness of a sound. I think this is adding a nice touch here. Yeah, it just kind of softens it nicely. I just liked it, and I did the same thing here on these open hats. Not a major change there. Yeah, so this channel here is one of the things I was talking about, where there's just various things throughout the mix that just add punch and impact every so often, and I didn't do anything really with this. I reduced a little bit of the low end just so it's not colliding kind of thing with the kick. Nothing on there really. Now there is other parts of the drums here, kind of the intro part, and then some bits that come in later on throughout the song. Pretty straightforward stuff here. I've added some low end to this kind of boomy kick here. Like in this part of the song, there's nothing else taking up any low end, so there's no bass here. There's no other kick here, so I just wanted that to have a little bit more impact. And then similarly with the, like I showed you earlier with the rim shot, I've added some saturation here on this clap, just to bring out some more high end and kind of grit on there. You see how using saturation, you know, I could use an EQ for this and it might do a similar job, but adding this saturation, it just, I don't know, it just does it in a much nicer way for me when working on claps and snares. I always like to try adding some tape saturation like this, and it just kind of sweetens it up in a way that I prefer to EQ a lot of the time. You see what this decapitator is doing to that hat? It was very sharp and very trebly, and this is just adding some grit into it. Very nice. And as you see, these parts come in around here as well in the track toward the end where everything's building up, like the other instruments are coming in. So the producer brought in more things here on the percussion as well. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that when these drums came in, they already sounded pretty good. And this is just little touches, just all these little touches just add up to a big change by the end of it, you know. And that's why I don't want to go through every single thing, because they're all kind of small changes. As you see, there's some level shifting as well going on here, of course, as I saw fit. I've also added a little touch of reverb to some of these sounds, slight touch of kind of room reverb to this. Very, very subtle, but it just smooths things out a little bit. So we'll get onto this 808 now, and as I explained earlier in the video, this is really the kind of driving force behind the song, as it often is with these kind of beats. It really wants to play a role of kind of leading the beat, but also rumbling under it and creating that real nice bottom end. So the first thing I did was went to the R bass, and this is a great plugin if you've got a bass sound or a lower frequency sound, even a kick. Sometimes I use this on kick. Anything with some low frequency in it, but not enough of it, or not enough as low down as you want it. This is what I draw for. And this is a great plugin I've been using for many years. So I'll play this with and without, and you'll see just how much extra weight this adds in the sub frequencies. So yeah, you see just how much extra weight that's adding down there in the real lower frequencies, and it's really simple to use. Just select a low frequency like this. Sometimes I'm on 70, sometimes I'm on 60, 50. Play around with this, whichever works best, and then just adjust the intensity. I've got this down at -7.5. I could have gone lower, could have gone higher with it, but this is where it felt about right. After that, I've got an EQ, and all I'm doing here is just removing some of the high end. This bass had a little kind of rattle going on up here and a slight bit of distortion, which is nice, but I just wanted to reduce it slightly. Yeah, so it's just filtering out that little bit of high end and that little bit of distortion that the bass came with. So the last thing I'm doing to this 808 here is just using the track spacer by Waves Factory, and this is just acting as a sidechain compression from the kick. So anytime that the kick hits, it's kind of ducking a little bit, but only right down in the real low frequencies. So let me show you what this is doing with the kick on as well. Yeah, so this is just hopefully buying me a little bit more headroom. You know, we don't want two things hitting at 50, 60 hertz right down there, which is eating up all your headroom. Low frequencies eat up headroom. So this is just helping to carve out the bass when that kick is hitting. And it hopefully, like I say, will give me a little bit more leeway in the mastering stage where I can bring up the level higher. The other part of the bass I wanted to mention is this reverse 808 here, which is basically like a build up to a drop. And I've done some cool stuff with this. I'll show you what I did here. Yeah, so it's kind of like a build up to a drop. And I wanted to add a little bit more saturation to this, so I ran it through Saturn again, and just a few little bits of kind of drive going on to bring out some extra harmonics out of this. So let me play this before and after. Let me turn off this tremolo as well. So pretty subtle, but I think it just helps to kind of, once everything else is in the arrangement here, it can be hard to hear this, and I just wanted it to catch the ear a little bit more. So I added that little bit of saturation to bring some more kind of mid and highs out of that. And then I've run it through this tremolo, so it's kind of oscillating between the speakers. Yeah, so when it's in with the rest of the arrangement, I think it's really cool. And that's all I really did to the bass parts of this, but those few things just really helped to bring it out and again, make it more of the focus of the song that it kind of already was, and make it worthy of being that real driving force behind the beat. Dive in now to the instruments, and again, I don't want to go into too much of the technicalities of what I did on each channel. As you'll see, there'll be a number of volume things, obviously. A little bit of compression here on some parts, so we've got these piano parts here. Literally just compressing them a little bit. I've added a little bit of high end here as well. And the reason I'm using a lot of this Sheps Omni channel, by the way, is it's just a really cool plugin for when I want to quickly be able to access some saturation, some EQ, some compression, you know, and it's nice sound, really nice sounding parts as well. So this is just a very simple plugin. It's got everything all in one place. And by the way, links in the description for all of the Waves plugins that I'm using in this track too. Same with this piano here. It was just a little bit too dynamic for me. It was sticking out too much and the quieter parts were getting drowned out a little bit. So I used that compression to just kind of keep it all up front, but also tame some of the louder parts. We've got this sax here, a really nice part of the beat actually. So all I've done on this is use the S1 imager to make it a little bit more wide, a little bit more spacious. Took out some of the rumble as well that was existing in there. Same with this sax. Also added a little bit of reverb to this as well. Really nice. Yeah, this is really nice part of the beat that you maybe don't expect from a beat like this to have some really nice sax parts like that. But yeah, really cool. And I think the reverb really just helped to kind of put it in a nice space. Yeah, so I'm using Fresh Air here, which is a free plugin, so make sure you get this. I'm using that to just add some brightness and some harmonic kind of saturation to the high end on this vocal sample here, make it stand out a little bit more. And that's it, really, just simple touches like that, you know. There's these choir parts here. I've used panning here to create a little bit more width as well, because this, for me, working on these instruments on this beat was all about creating space for the vocal. The vocal is the most important part of this, really, along with the bass and the drums. But you know, the vocal, I wanted it to sit like slap bang in the middle, so I wanted the instruments to really be wider and placed outside of the speakers, and the vocal to be inside of it. It was already a really nice arrangement and really well produced, and that's the thing, you know, when you're mixing a beat, an instrumental, it really depends how well it was produced, arranged, and mixed originally by the engineer or the producer that actually made the beat, you know, and in this case, it was really well produced. So shout out to the producer, man, it's Cooler, and you know, he provided me with a really good kind of beginning on this, and then it was just a case of, okay, what can I add to just take this, just add this kind of extra 10, 20%, and also make it fit around the vocals. The other thing I've done here, as you'll see, there's quite a few plugins here, well, 4 plugins here on the actual instruments bus. So all the instruments on this beat output to this track stack here, or this bus, this instruments bus, and on that, we have a few things. So first of all, I've used the MoTT. I'm just at 10%. This is kind of an expander. It just brings everything up. Very subtle on 10%, but I'll exaggerate it so you can hear it too. Yeah, so really subtle, but as you heard when I exaggerated it, it's really kind of compressing everything together. Just makes it more, I don't know, it just kind of adds some glue that I like. So I use that quite often for that reason. And I'm using the Vitamin or the Vitamin by Waves to add some nice crisp high end here. After that, I'm using this SSL Fusion Stereo Image plugin, and this is just to add even more space and width to these instruments. As I said earlier, I want the vocal to sit in the middle, and I want these to sit kind of outside of it. So this just helps with that, as well as kind of the panning and other things that I've done. But let's see if this, if we can pick a part where this is really making a difference here. Yeah, so you'll have to be listening on really good speakers or on headphones to really get a sense of what that's doing. It is pretty subtle, even though the dials are, you know, quite high up on this. It is a pretty subtle effect, but it really does help. After that, I'm using the R compressor. Side chained into this is the kick. So every time the kick hits, it's ducking down on the instruments a little bit, again, just to kind of create that slight little pumping effect. So it goes along with the rhythm of the kick here. Really not audible when everything's in, but it just hopefully helps for the kick to just push through and punch through that little bit more. And I like to do that on a lot of my mixes, you know, sometimes more subtle, sometimes less subtle. It just depends on what we're going with. So that's pretty much the instrumental. I didn't go through these kind of effect shots and things like that. These are just various things throughout the song to create those impacts. You know, various little touches like that, that's all on the producer. The only thing that I added was this sweep here. So I added that on certain drops that I wanted to create even more impact on, but as you'll hear, there's plenty of impact on most of these drops already from the producer. That's really it for the instrumental. I know I didn't go into crazy detail like I usually do or like I have done on some of my other videos, and let me know if you have any questions about anything I've said, but I really wanted to get to the vocals because that's kind of what most people come here for, I think. But yeah, the main things is getting the bass to hit right, getting the samples and the instruments to kind of sit in the right space in the stereo field and frequency wise as well. And then obviously, as usual, making sure the drums kick and hit correctly too. So yeah, that's the instrumental, and now we'll get onto the vocals.
Rigged it to blow, so I'm back with a bang. But look, just this once, excuse my language, car can't lie, all this shit's fucked. A boy said just because you bang gym and you train in the ring, keep something tucked.